Ethan Cole never thought his life would change because of a simple medical scan. It started like any other day in the sprawling space city of Orion Prime, a place where humans and dozens of alien species lived under the watch of the Central Match. The AI's job was to keep peace, manage resources, and ensure the survival of every species in the Galactic Union. It paired individuals for work, friendship, and sometimes marriage. Most people trusted it without question, because the AI never made mistakes. Ethan was a humble mechanic who fixed broken machines for cargo ships. He liked his quiet life, away from the political drama between alien worlds, but that morning he received a message on his wrist communicator. The text glowed bright red. Mandatory summons. Central Match AI office. Urgent. Ethan frowned, wondering what it meant. He wasn't expecting a job change or a relocation. Still, ignoring a summons was impossible. The AI's orders were law. When he arrived at the Grand AI Hall, the place felt colder than usual. The walls shimmered with holographic stars, and in the center stood the massive crystal pillar that housed the AI's main consciousness. A calm, synthetic voice echoed through the room. "Ethan Cole, please step forward." His boots clicked against the metal floor as he approached, feeling a strange tension in the air. "Your biological scan has been reviewed." The AI began. Its voice without emotion. "Results indicate you possess an unusually high reproductive drive." It continued. Ethan blinked, unsure he'd heard. "Right, excuse me?" he said awkwardly. The AI ignored his discomfort. "To maintain population balance and genetic diversity, you have been assigned to mates from different species." Ethan's jaw dropped. "Two." "What?" "2 wives," the AI confirmed. "They are petite in size, chosen to balance your physical and emotional compatibility scores." Ethan's heart raced. Marriage wasn't even on his list of priorities. And now, 2 alien wives. It felt like a bad dream. He tried to protest. "Look, I think you've got the wrong guy. Refusal is not an option." The AI interrupted. "Survival of 2 species depends on this pairing." A low humming sound filled the hall. 2 doors slid open at the far end, spilling white light into the room. Silhouettes appeared. 2 feminine figures, their forms delicate yet mysterious. Ethan squinted, but the light kept their faces hidden. One stood with perfect posture, hands folded in front of her. The other leaned casually against the wall. One leg crossed over the other, even without seeing them clearly. Ethan could tell they were very different. The AI spoke again. "You will meet them one by one, and then you will be relocated to a shared residence on Lunar Haven." Ethan's mind spun. He'd heard of Lunar Haven, a peaceful moon with glowing forests and silver lakes, a perfect place for couples. If the couple actually agreed to be together, he had no idea if these women even wanted him, and truthfully, he wasn't sure he wanted this either. One of the silhouettes shifted slightly. Ethan thought he saw a glimmer of violet skin. The other figure tilted her head, as if sizing him up from a distance. The AI added, "Be advised, both mates come from species facing extinction. Your cooperation is critical." Ethan swallowed hard, realizing the weight of what was being asked. This wasn't just about him anymore. It was about 2 entire alien races counting on him. "Tomorrow at sunrise, you will meet the first mate," the AI concluded. "She is already prepared and aware of the pairing." Ethan wanted to ask about the second wife, but before he could, the AI's crystal pillar dimmed. The conversation was over. He stood there for a moment, feeling like his whole world had shifted in seconds as he left the hall. He couldn't help glancing back at the doors where the 2 figures had stood. He didn't know their names, their personalities, or what they thought of him, but one thing was certain: this was no ordinary assignment. And something deep inside him whispered that the AI's decision was only the beginning of something far bigger than he could imagine. The next morning, Ethan woke before sunrise. He barely slept, his mind turning over the Eye's words again and again. 2 wives, both aliens. Both from endangered species. He still wasn't sure whether to laugh, panic, or run. But there was no running from the AI when it made a decision. It was final. The transport shuttle arrived right on time, gliding silently to his building's landing pad. A gentle chime sounded and the doors slid open. A voice from inside spoke. "Ethan Cole, please board." He stepped in, feeling the hum of the engines as the shuttle lifted off into the pale light of dawn through the window. Orion Prime's skyline faded into view, silver towers glowing, bridges and floating gardens drifting in the early mist. But his thoughts weren't on the scenery. They were on the mysterious silhouette he'd seen yesterday. The one with the folded hands and calm presence. The AI said she would be his first wife. What was her name again? Oh, right, Lyra. It sounded musical, almost like a song. The shuttle descended toward a domed structure near the outskirts of the city. It was surrounded by tall, flowering trees with pale blue leaves. Ethan guessed this was some kind of cultural embassy. The door opened with a soft hiss, and he was led inside by a quiet attendant. The air was warm and fragrant, like a mix of herbs and rain. And there she was, standing near a crystal water fountain. Lyra. Her skin was a soft, violet hue, smooth and glowing faintly under the light. Her hair fell like silk down her back, shimmering between silver and pale blue, depending on how she moved. But her eyes were luminous, like twin moons reflecting a hidden sadness. She gave a graceful bow, placing her slender hands together. "Ethan Cole," she said softly, her voice like a whisper in the wind. "I am Lyra of the Niral species, and I am to be your wife." Ethan blinked, unsure what to say. "Hi," he finally managed. Her lips curved into the faintest smile. "Tay," but it didn't reach her eyes. They sat together at a low glass table where an alien tea was served, in delicate cups that looked like carved seashells. Lyra poured for both of them, her hands steady but her gaze distant. "I know this pairing is sudden for you," she began. "It is sudden for me as well, but my people are dying. Our birth rate has dropped to near nothing, and the AI believes this match will help." Ethan shifted uncomfortably. "Do you want this?" Lyra hesitated, then gave a small shrug. "I want my people to live, and if this is the way, then yes." There was a pause. The sound of the fountain filled the silence between them. Ethan noticed how careful she was with her words. It wasn't coldness, it was restraint, like she was afraid to hope. He decided to change the subject. "So, the AI said there's another wife." Lyra's fingers tightened around her cup. "Yes," she said quietly, "and she is not like me, not at all. She comes from a warrior race, proud and stubborn." Ethan raised an eyebrow. "And she might not like me?" Lyra looked him in the eyes for the first time and gave a sad, knowing smile. "She will not trust you, not easily. But if you can earn her trust, she will protect you with her life." Before Ethan could ask more, the attendant returned. "It is time," the voice said politely. Lyra rose gracefully, and Ethan followed her to the shuttle. They were silent on the ride back, but once the city's skyline appeared again, Lyra spoke. "Tomorrow you will meet her, Ethan, and when you do, remember, she will test you." The shuttle landed near Ethan's quarters. Lyra stepped off first, her steps as light as falling leaves. She turned back to him, her eyes softer now. "Rest well," she said. "You will need it." Then she walked away. Disappearing into the silver streets, Ethan stood there for a long moment, the morning breeze cool against his skin. Meeting Lyra had left him with more questions than answers. She was beautiful, graceful, and calm, yet there was a quiet desperation in her every word. And now, tomorrow, he would meet the second wife, the one who might not want him at all. He had a feeling that day would be very different and far more dangerous. The next day came faster than Ethan expected. He had barely adjusted to meeting Lyra, and now the AI was sending him to meet the second wife. From what Lyra had said, this woman was nothing like her. No gentle words, no soft smiles. Instead, she was a warrior, proud and stubborn. Ethan didn't know if proud and stubborn would even begin to describe her, but he was about to find out. The AI shuttle arrived just after sunrise. This time, the route didn't head toward any peaceful embassy. Instead, it climbed high above the city before diving toward the military district of Orion Prime. Through the window, Ethan saw training fields, obstacle courses, and squads of armored aliens drilling in perfect formation. If Lyra's home felt like a sanctuary, this place felt like a battlefield. The shuttle touched down on a landing pad guarded by two tall alien soldiers. Their skin was bronze gold, and they carried long, curved spears that looked ceremonial but deadly. One of them spoke sharply. "Human, follow." Ethan stepped out, trying not to look intimidated, but the air here was heavy with discipline. Every step echoed across the polished stone as they led him toward a large hall with crimson banners hanging from the ceiling. Inside, the scent of metal and oil hung in the air. In the center stood a small figure, small in height, but not. In presence, her stance radiated confidence. One hip slightly tilted, her arms crossed. Her skin was a warm copper tone, her black hair cut short, and her golden eyes fixed on him with sharp intensity. Even though she was petite, something about her made Ethan's instincts scream that she was dangerous. "You're the human," she said without a hint of warmth. Her voice was clear and strong, the kind of voice used to giving orders. Ethan nodded slowly. "Yeah, I guess I am." She stepped closer, her gaze never leaving his. "I am sorry of the Kareth," she said, "and I did not ask for this." Ethan blinked, unsure how to respond. Sorry continued before he could speak. "My people only agreed to this pairing because the AI promised it would strengthen alliances, and because my elders want an heir." She narrowed her eyes. "Do not think for a moment that I am here for you." Ethan resisted the urge to sigh. "All right. So you don't like this, I get it. But I'm not exactly the one who came up with the idea either." For a moment, her expression flickered as if she hadn't expected him to push back. She smirked faintly, but it wasn't a friendly smile. "Good," she said. "At least you have a spine. You'll need it." Ethan tilted his head. "Why's that?" Sari leaned in slightly, her golden eyes catching the light. "Because if you can't keep up, I'll walk away, and the AI will have to replace you." The attendant from the AI's office interrupted, announcing that they were to leave for Lunar Haven immediately. Sari didn't seem to care. She simply walked toward the shuttle with purposeful steps. Ethan followed, feeling the tension between them like an invisible rope pulling tight. Once inside the shuttle, Lyra was already seated, her hands folded neatly in her lap. Her soft eyes met Ethan's, and then shifted to Sari. "Welcome," Lyra said gently, but Sari only gave a curt nod. The silence in the shuttle was thick. Ethan could feel Lyra's calmness on one side and Sari's fiery energy on the other. It was like sitting between water and fire, and somehow he was supposed to survive both. As the shuttle entered hyperspace toward Lunar Haven, Sari finally spoke again. "Human," she said without looking at him. "We will see if you are worth my time." Ethan looked out the window at the streaking stars. He didn't know whether to be insulted or amused, but deep down, he knew this was only the first step in proving himself to her. The shuttle dropped out of hyperspace, revealing the glowing forests and silver lakes of Lunar Haven below. From the sky, it looked peaceful, almost magical, but Ethan had a feeling. His life here was going to be anything but peaceful. As they descended, Sari leaned toward him slightly, her voice low but firm. "Remember this, human. I don't protect people I don't respect. Ethan met her gaze, holding it. Then I guess I'll just have to earn it. For the first time, her smirk held a trace of genuine interest. It wasn't much, but it was a start. Asterisk, the shuttle touched down softly on the landing pad of Lunar Haven from the outside. The home the AI had assigned to them looked like something from a dream. It was built of smooth white stone with wide glass windows, surrounded by glowing blue-leafed trees beyond the trees. Ethan could see the silver surface of a lake catching the sunlight. It was the kind of place couples came to start a new life together. But Ethan wasn't sure if this was going to feel like a new life or a battlefield. Inside, the house was open and bright, with rooms that seemed to blend into one another. Alien patterns decorated the walls, and the air was fresh with the scent of Lunar Haven's wildflowers. The AI's voice came through hidden speakers. This residence has been configured to suit all three of your species' needs. Food synthesizers are preloaded with cultural menus. Sleeping quarters are separate, but share a central space. Lyra smiled politely at the description, but Sari just gave a short nod, already scanning the place like a soldier checking for weak points. Ethan set his small bag down near the kitchen. So, I guess this is home now, he said awkwardly. Lyra stepped forward, placing her delicate hands on the counter. It is beautiful. I will make the central room a place for peace. Sari glanced over her shoulder. And I will make sure no one can get in without facing a fight, Ethan muttered. Great. Peace and war under one roof. But he said it quietly enough that only he heard it. That first evening, the three of them tried to share a meal. Lyra prepared a dish from her world, a shimmering purple soup that smelled sweet and floral. Sari added grilled strips of some Lunar Haven animal that looked like fish but had the texture of meat. Ethan, not wanting to be left out, used the food synthesizer to make something familiar from Earth, scrambled eggs with herbs. When they all sat down, the differences became obvious. Lyra's soup was served in delicate crystal bowls. Sari's grilled meat was eaten with bare hands, and Ethan? Well, he had a fork. They exchanged curious looks. Lyra politely tried a bite of eggs and smiled softly. Very different, she said. Sari took a bite of the meat and gestured for Ethan to try it. He did, and almost coughed. It was fiery. Hot, Sari smirked. Good. It means it's working. Lyra chuckled gently, the sound lightening the atmosphere. But peace didn't last long. Later that night, Sari found Ethan in the main room, repairing a loose panel near the window. You fix things with your hands, she observed. Yeah, I'm a mechanic, he replied. She tilted her head. We fight with our hands. Maybe you'll learn. Ethan gave a small laugh. And maybe you'll learn to fix things instead of breaking them. For a moment, Sari's eyes narrowed, but then, surprisingly, she gave a short laugh. We'll see. Lyra, meanwhile, kept the central space calm, placing soft light crystals around the room and arranging the seating in a circle. When Ethan asked why, she said, a circle is a symbol of unity on my world, even if unity does not yet exist here. Her words stayed with him. Over the next few days, awkward moments piled up. Ethan accidentally walked into the kitchen while Lyra was performing a Nairal morning ritual, sprinkling water in patterns across the counter. Sari startled him one morning by sparring in the hallway with an invisible opponent. Her movements sharp and fast. Lyra laughed when Ethan tripped over one of Sari's training weapons. And even Sari hid a smile, though she quickly looked away. One evening, a storm rolled over Lunar Haven. The wind howled against the glass, and the silver lake churned under heavy rain. The three of them sat together in the central room for warmth. Lyra wrapped herself in a thin silver shawl. Sari sat with her arms crossed, and Ethan brewed something warm for everyone. The conversation turned to home worlds. Lyra spoke of Nairal gardens that glowed at night. Sari told stories of Karath battlefields where even the sky seemed to roar. When it was Ethan's turn, he spoke of Earth's oceans, sunsets, and the smell of rain. On dry ground, for a brief moment, the tension between them faded. And they were just three people sharing stories under a storm. But Ethan knew this fragile peace could break at any moment, especially since the AI's pairing wasn't just about romance. It had hinted there were greater dangers ahead. And he could see in Sari's watchful eyes that she expected something to test them. Lyra, though calm, also seemed to sense it. Whatever life under one roof was supposed to be, it was clear this was only the beginning. Days passed quietly on Lunar Haven, too quietly, Ethan thought. The glowing forests, silver lakes, and calm skies almost made it seem like nothing bad could ever happen here. But Sari didn't believe in safe places. She trained every morning. In the yard, practicing with her curved blade and throwing discs, Lyra tended to the small garden near the house, growing healing herbs from her homeworld. Ethan repaired anything in the house that wasn't perfect just to keep his hands busy. One afternoon, while Ethan was fixing the water filter, he noticed something strange, a faint hum in the distance. It wasn't the soft, natural hum of Lunar Haven's wildlife. This sound was mechanical. He stepped outside, shielding his eyes from the sun. Far off near the tree line, something metallic glinted before disappearing into the forest. That evening, Ethan mentioned it over dinner. "I saw something out there, near the trees, looked like metal." He said. Sari stopped eating, her eyes sharp. "Describe it." "Small, shiny. Maybe a drone." Ethan guessed. Sari's jaw tightened. "Not from here. Lunar Haven doesn't allow outside drones unless they're government." Lyra looked worried. If it was not from the AI, then it could belong to someone dangerous. The next morning, Sari left early to patrol the edge of the property. When she returned, she carried a small device, a black, oval-shaped object with blinking red lights. "This was hidden in the forest," she said. Dropping it on the table, Ethan leaned closer. "Tracker." Sari nodded. "Pirates use these to mark valuable targets." Lyra's hand flew to her mouth. "Then?" "They know we're here." Ethan's stomach tightened. Pirates on Lunar Haven weren't common. But when they came prepared. They traded in rare goods and rare beings. A Neural healer like Lyra could fetch a high price a Kareth. Warrior like Sari could be forced into bloodsport arenas, and a human. Ethan didn't even want to think about what they'd do to him. Sari began moving through the house, checking windows and entry points. "We need defenses now," she said. Ethan followed her into the storage room. "I can rig alarms on the doors and motion sensors outside." She glanced at him, then gave a short nod. "Good. Do it." It was the first time she'd given him an order without the usual sharpness. For the next few hours, Ethan worked on security, stringing small trip alarms near the forest edge and wiring alerts into the house system. Sari adjusted the perimeter lights so they would flash bright enough to blind anyone approaching. Lyra, though nervous, prepared medical supplies just in case. As she put it, by evening, the house felt less like a peaceful home and more like a guarded base. Still, Ethan couldn't shake the feeling that they were already being watched. When night fell, the silver lake reflected the moons above, but Ethan kept his eyes on the dark tree line, and then he saw it, two small red lights moving slowly between the trees. They blinked in and out of view. Closer this time, he moved to the door. "Sari," he called quietly. She joined him, following his gaze. Her hand went to the hilt of her blade. "They're scouting," she whispered. Lyra appeared behind them, her voice trembling. "Should we call the AI?" Sari shook her head. "By the time help arrives, they'll be inside. We handle this ourselves." Ethan felt a strange mix of fear and determination. He wasn't a soldier, but he wasn't going to hide either. If pirates were coming for them, they'd have to get through him first. Sari gave him a quick, assessing look. "Stay close to me when it starts," she said, "and keep Lyra safe." Ethan nodded. "You focus on the fight. I'll protect her." The night stretched on, silent, except for the soft rustle of leaves. But everyone in the house knew the truth. This was just the beginning. Whoever was out there wasn't going to stop until they had what they came for. And somewhere in the darkness, Ethan swore he heard the faint hum of engines, again, closer. Then before. The night was thick and heavy. No breeze, no sound from the forest. Just an unnatural stillness that made Ethan's skin prickle. Inside the house, every light was dimmed, every window locked, every door sealed. Lyra sat quietly. Near the medical table she had prepared, her hands resting on a bundle of healing herbs and crystal vials, Sari paced near the main door, blade in hand, her golden eyes glowing faintly in the dark. Then it came a faint rustle outside, followed by the soft crunch of footsteps on the gravel path. Ethan froze, straining to hear. Sari's head tilted slightly, her stance shifting. 3, she whispered. Maybe 4, before Ethan could react. A bright flash lit the window, followed by the metallic hiss of something being cut. They were breaching the side wall. Sari was already moving, sliding the door open and disappearing into the shadows outside. Ethan wanted to follow, but Lyra grabbed his arm. No, stay. She needs you here to guard me. A heavy thud shook the wall, and a second later, the glass panel near the kitchen shattered. 2 figures in black armor burst inside. Their helmets reflecting the dim light, they carried stun rifles and moved. With the speed of trained raiders, Ethan's instincts kicked in. He grabbed the small tool bag he had left by the counter and flung it at the first pirate, the weight knocking the rifle sideways. Before the man could recover, Ethan swung a chair hard into his chest, sending him stumbling back. The second pirate aimed at Lyra, but Ethan dove in front, taking the stun blast on his shoulder. His vision blurred for a moment, but he stayed on his feet. From outside came the sharp sound of metal striking metal. Shari's voice shouting in her native tongue. Ethan caught glimpses through the broken glass. She moved like a storm, her small frame darting between 2 larger attackers, blade flashing. In the moonlight, one pirate screamed and fell, clutching his leg. Another tried to grab her from behind, but she spun, driving her elbow into his helmet before slicing his weapon apart. Inside, Ethan was still fighting. The first pirate charged again. Swinging the butt of his rifle, Ethan ducked and shoved him into the table. Lyra quickly reaching forward to press a glowing herb against his neck. The man went limp instantly. Ethan stared, panting. What was that? Lyra's voice was calm but urgent. A neural sleep root. Works fast. Now watch out. The second pirate lunged at Ethan, but before the blow could land, Sari crashed through the window. Rolling into the room, she slashed the man's weapon in half, grabbed his armor collar, and hurled him into the wall. The impact knocked him unconscious. Ethan blinked. Remind me never to make you mad. Sari smirked briefly, but her tone stayed sharp. We're not done. There are more. A sudden explosion shook the ground, throwing all 3 of them off balance through the doorway. Ethan saw flames rising from the tree line. The pirates had set fire as a distraction. Sari's jaw tightened. They're trying to push us toward the lake. Ethan realized why. If they drove them out into the open, a waiting ship could scoop them up in seconds. We hold here, Sari ordered. They'll have to come. Through me, Lyra took position behind Ethan, her healing supplies ready when the next group came. Ethan fought alongside Sari, using his tools and quick thinking to block and trap attackers. Sari's blade flashed again and again, precise and deadly. Lyra moved in between them when needed, healing cuts, stopping bleeding, and even blinding an enemy with a burst of herbal smoke. After what felt like hours, but could only have been minutes, the last pirate stumbled back toward the forest. A sharp whistle cut through the night, and just like that, the remaining raiders retreated. Melting into the dark, the hum of an engine faded in the distance. Silence returned, broken only by the sound of heavy breathing. Ethan leaned against the wall, his shoulder burning where the stun blast had hit. Sari sheathed her blade slowly, her chest rising and falling with controlled breaths. Lyra set down her herbs and came to check Ethan's wound. "You fought well," Sari said finally, her tone carrying something new. Respect. Ethan gave her a tired grin. "Guess I'm worth keeping around after all," for the first time since they met. Sari didn't smirk, she just nodded. Morning came slowly over the quiet forest. Sunlight filtered through the leaves, casting golden patterns on the ground. The fire from last night had burned out, leaving only blackened trees and the faint smell of smoke. Ethan sat on a fallen log, cleaning his tools, his hands trembling slightly from the adrenaline. Sari leaned against a tree nearby, her blade sheathed, her expression unreadable. Lyra moved softly among the plants, collecting herbs and examining the small injuries she had treated during the attack. Ethan looked at them both and realized something had changed. The danger had brought them closer. Sari no longer seemed distant or cold. Her eyes held a flicker of trust and even something softer that Ethan could not name. Lyra glanced at him and smiled faintly. "You were brave," she said, "more than most humans would be." Ethan shook his head. "I was just lucky to have you both." They started walking back to the main house, the path uneven and scarred from the pirate's fire. Sari stayed slightly ahead, her movements sharp and controlled. Ethan noticed how her small frame moved with precision, every step confident, every glance alert. Lyra walked beside him, her hands occasionally brushing against his arm as she passed herbs to him. Ethan felt warmth from that simple touch, a reminder that he was not alone as they reached the doorway. Sari paused, looking at him directly. "You could have run," she said quietly. "You didn't." Ethan met her gaze. "I don't run from people who protect me," he replied. And he saw her lips twitch into the smallest of smiles. Lyra stepped forward, placing her hand gently on his shoulder. "And you heal us too," she said. "Not just our bodies, but our fear, our doubts." Ethan realized then that he understood something he hadn't before. This was more than survival. More than fighting together, it was a bond. Fragile but real. Sari finally spoke, her voice steady. "You belong here. With us, if you want." Ethan swallowed, the weight of her words settling over him. He had been alone so long, traveling planets and facing dangers without a true companion. But now in the soft morning light, with two alien women who had risked their lives for him, he felt a home, a sense of connection he had never known. Lyra smiled, placing a small vial into his hand. "A gift," she said, "to remind you that you are never alone." Ethan turned it over, noticing the glowing liquid inside, and understood. Without her speaking, trust, healing, protection, Sari stepped closer, lowering her blade completely. A gesture of acceptance. "You have proven yourself," she said simply. Not just in battle, but in heart. Ethan felt something swell inside him, feeling he couldn't fully name, but did not need to. The three of them moved inside the house. The tension from the attack slowly melting away, Ethan helped Lyra with the remaining healing, while Sari checked the perimeter one last time. They worked together without words, each action a silent promise of loyalty, of respect, of care. When all was done, they sat together, sharing a simple meal, the quiet, broken only by soft conversation. Ethan looked at both women, realizing how different this was from any adventure he had known. No fear, no danger looming, just understanding and shared moments. Finally, Sari spoke, her tone softer than ever. "I thought humans were weak, reckless, careless." Ethan laughed. "Quietly, some are," he admitted. "But I guess I'm not like the others." She tilted her head, a small smirk appearing. "You are." "Surprising." Lyra leaned back, her hands folded. "You are one of us now, Ethan," she said, "and we are yours." Ethan felt a warmth spread through his chest, a feeling he could never forget. This bond was more than survival, more than duty, more than chance. It was connection, trust, and love. As the sun climbed higher, the forest around them seemed peaceful. Ethan, Sari, and Lyra sat together, their past fears forgotten, their future uncertain but shared. He reached out his hand. Sari hesitated, but then placed hers in his. Lyra followed, laying her hand over both, and for the first time, Ethan felt completely, unshakably part of something. The AI's choice had brought them together, but it was their courage, their trust, and their hearts that sealed the bond. They would face the universe together, strong, united, and ready for whatever came next. And in that moment, Ethan knew he was never alone again.